All right.
Okay. All right, Ms. Jakl, good afternoon, and thank you for coming to B.Jakl Elementary. I appreciate your interest in our school.
Thank you for inviting me, Ms. Garrido.
Yes, ma'am. And so we're going to go ahead and get straight into the questions because this is really the way that I'm going to know more about you.
Okay.
I did have a chance to review your resume, and these are some things about the role of assistant principal that I feel would feed me more information as to know if you're a good fit for the school.
All right. Thank
Okay.
you.
So technology, well, not even recent technology, but overall, you would think that there's a lot of ways for you to get information about schools, our website and the internet. And I'm sure that you've done your homework in researching the school. And so can you tell me two things that you learned about B.Jakl Elementary's academic needs based on the school improvement plan?
Yeah, so I did actually take some time to review the website and the school improvement plan. So one thing I noticed is that we, as a campus, B.Jakl Elementary is really working on their telepath, like the language learners, ESL or the ELLs, and working on improving that second language acquisition for those students. I noticed that the domain for the Intelpass was not quite there, that you guys had missed it by just a little bit. So I'm sure that looks like that's a goal for you guys.
It is.
And then as well as just improving the growth in your high achievers as well. I noticed that you're not, I'm sorry, that domain is not as high as that I'm sure you would want. I noticed that was something else you pointed out.
That's definitely true. Sometimes we have a tendency of ignoring the high performers, and they are a big component in the accountability system.
Yes.
So now we have to keep our eyes on that. So those are two very important areas for us. You're right. Our language learners are not where they should be, and so we need to focus on that. But as you know, our school is Title I, so language development is good for
everyone.
All kids.
Exactly.
What do you feel? How do you feel is, let me see, let me take this again. What do you believe is the best way to handle misbehavior?
So when I take care of children that are misbehaving, especially like the students who are showing misbehaviors, I usually try to talk to them first. Sometimes it's as simple as I didn't eat breakfast this morning, or I woke up and my mom was upset with me, or, so it's an easy fix. It can just be a nice little talk through, and we can kind of squash it then. Sometimes it's also just getting some background about that child as well. Do they have a history of these types of misbehaviors? Do they have an IEP, especially if they're a new student to you, right? But so I normally try to handle it one-on-one first. Try to use positive reinforcement to dissuade, get kids away from misbehaviors, praise the good, ignore certain things. I think you have to learn how to ignore certain behaviors that are not harmful to anyone and they're not disruptive. Maybe you just need to tune that out because giving it attention sometimes makes it worse.
You're right. Okay, good. And so we talked a little bit about having this happen in the morning. So, sometimes you can see that very beginning. Let's say later on during the day that they're having an issue with another student. So it's not so much that they're talking out or walking when they shouldn't or talking over you. It's something now they're pulling in another learner in there. How do you feel that you would change how you would handle that?
So if it's involving 2 or more students, then I usually first try to get all sides of the situation, but individually. Sometimes it can be solved in a group concept, like if it's something that's not really like a recess disagreement or something, you can kind of get them together, be like, what's really the problem here? Let's figure it out, come up with a solution, depending on the age of the child as well. If needed, of course, I will ask the child to take a little time out if needed, like a break away from the situation. Again, talk to them, see what's going on. And then if it's serious enough, obviously I would get them the correct people involved, administrators, maybe send them to another room for a little bit, maybe need time out from the students themselves. It just depends on the severity of the situation, I would think.
Got it. Okay. All right. Sounds good. Okay. Describe your role as an assistant principal in a grade level PLC.
So I would think that I'm more of a facilitator, especially dependent upon if it's just a grade level PLC, then I'm just there to facilitate and to guide the conversation if needed, answer questions that are asked of me, clarifications. If I see maybe that something is not being said that is that's a misconception or not correct, I might need to correct that. But I definitely don't want to be the leader. That should be the team lead and the team themselves.
So let's say, for example, you come in and this team is not used to having their assistant principal or any leader in their PLCs, and all of a sudden you show up. Or even if you tell them I'm on my way or I'll be joining you, they're not used to that. So you know from the very beginning, walking in, it's going to be awkward for them. How do you think you could break the ice so that they know that you are the facilitator without really kind of just saying, I'm the facilitator?
Yeah. Oh, that's a good question. So I think to break the ice, it would be to maybe have a reason, like an objective of why I'm there. So that kind of gives them a frame of, okay, so why is she just coming to spy on our conversation, or is she here for a reason?
Okay.
So if I have the ability to maybe give them an objective, like today I'm going to be there just because I want to hear what you have to say about what you guys what strategies you're using in math, right? You said you were going to discuss some strategies you're using in class for XYZ. I'm just here to maybe give you some of my input, or just to kind of see what strategies you guys are finding effective so that I can share them with other teams.
Okay.
Something like that.
Not all schools are very
I understand.
very close with their leaders, and I know that here we are, but every year we have a turnover or even a change within grade level that changes the dynamic of that team. And so it's always important that they should just not know that we're coming in because that's just the way it works. That they know why we're coming in, and being that facilitator role is very important.
Great.
Identify 5 instructional best practices that you believe are non-negotiables.
Okay, so 5 instructional best practices. So I believe that planning is non-negotiable. Like, the planning is where most of the work is. I definitely also believe in data-driven instruction, meaning looking at the end in sight. So especially in STAR testing grades, I know it's not just about them, and also making sure that those lower grades know that what their goals are to get them ready for the next year. So I feel like that's a non-negotiable. Everyone has to understand what their end result should be for that year. So I also believe that interventions is like a non-negotiable. If we're talking about instructional practices, I believe you still have to intervene, right? So lower performers, higher performers, those kids in the middle, you have to adjust. Differentiation, I guess, would go along with the interventions. And then I also believe in integrating technology, or integrating not just technology, but ways to engage the student engagement. So finding new and creative ways that aren't overbearing to the kids or too much for them to understand. But we are in the age of, students aren't as fascinated by PowerPoint, just PowerPoints or just you talking or just a book. They need more. So integrating the videos, the websites, and all of that in as much as possible. And then I would say also making sure that you're servicing, or that you are using strategies from like structured or sheltered instruction. I'm sorry. So making sure you're supporting, especially because we said like on your academic plan that we want to service those ELs, but not just the ELs. All of our kids, especially in Title I campus, need that vocabulary enrichment. So I believe that's a non-negotiable, to introduce new vocabulary, have vocabulary present in the classroom, and really make sure you focus on that.
What do you think is a routine that should happen in the reading classroom? That's not necessarily the text or the lesson cycle. It's just a routine or a practice that you have every day as part of just the flow of how you begin your day or how you end your day. What is one thing in reading that, like, besides everything else that we have going on, this is what we have to do daily?
I love read aloud. I believe that even if you don't have time for anything else that day, simply reading a book or a chapter of a book or whatever with students and thinking aloud and showing that process of what a good reader sounds like and thinks about in their brain is a must for all age levels in reading class. If I couldn't do because I know that's kind of part of the cycle of a lot of lesson cycles. I guess they don't explicitly say read aloud all the time, but I would also say I do a lot of word study or word development. I know sometimes that's a part of the lesson cycle as well, depending on your curriculum, but definitely making sure you build that in as well.
What would you say is a good math routine to have every
day? When I taught math in lower grades, and I believe in upper grades it would work amazing as well, is number talks. I made sure we did a number talk every day or a problem solving journal problem every day. One or the other, you kind of alternated. That math talk was another way for them to think aloud and for them to hear their peers think aloud and for me to think aloud and to model what good mathematicians are thinking in their brain and how they're figuring that out.
Good, good. And for writing, what is something they have to do each?
They have to write. Just plain and simple, whether it's a couple of sentences for a quick write prompt or a reflection from something we did earlier that day, a journal response, or a full composition, whatever it is, just them writing to write is something that has to happen every day.
That point that you're making, that they have to write every day, and I try to impress that upon in all classes. What I've noticed is that you can have classes that have direct teach lessons, subject and predicate, noun and verb, and all of those, and here's a period, and it starts with a capital letter, all of that. So those lessons are there in the isolation of this sentence, but then when it's time to write a piece, all that kind of goes out the window.
Yeah.
And so the application level with what you're saying is that they have to write every day that's how to develop good writers. So you give them an A for being able to write a good sentence by itself or being able to identify the pieces of sentence. But then when they're asked to do a tell-pass piece or another piece of writing, you're like, did you really teach that? If not that you didn't teach it, is that it wasn't applied as often as needed. And so stating that they just have to write every day is giving that application level of writing.
And in lower grades, I found fix-it sentences, daily fix-it sentences when I taught first grade to be really effective because it showed them that, and they wrote too during Writing Center, but that really, I saw a lot of growth because they were able to quickly start identifying, oh, there's no period, oh, there's no capital, oh, that's spelled wrong, that's a sight word and it's spelled wrong, or that doesn't go there. And so that is also another way to apply those individual little lessons. And I really like that.
Yeah, those are good to make sure that you're fixing those individual pieces. And then so that you can have this masterpiece of all these sentences put together. Yeah. Okay, what do you expect from your principal? You're the AP. As an AP, what do you expect from your principal?
I would hope for guidance on, especially if it's my first year as an assistant principal, I would like some guidance on how to do certain tasks or things like that, or the expectations. I would definitely like a guideline of expectations or to be told exactly what is expected of me in certain situations because every campus is different. I would also like, those are two really big ones, guidance and expectations. I'm trying to think too, like just a collaboration between me and the principal. I think that that's important. Not just between the two of us, but between any admin, administrative. Support, I guess that kind of goes with guidance, but support on things that maybe I want to try or do or implement as an assistant principal. Support on giving, and a little bit of help, knowing that I can do that without feeling.
Good. What kinds of contributions do you expect to make in 5 years in this position?
5 years, okay. I think over 5 years, I would hope to contribute to the community in the sense of the kids would get to know me. You know what I mean? Like they would feel comfortable with me. They would understand who I am on the campus and that I'm another person that they could rely on. The parents hopefully would understand that I'm a partner in the community and that I'm just here to help them and their children, and the students all grow and develop. I would also like to contribute maybe setting up some new, implementing some new procedures in the school or helping, I think of the word, helping refine some current procedures that maybe just need a new eye or a new perspective because
something fresh.
Something fresh, yeah.
Okay. Now, you will be working with new teachers as part of your role as assistant principal. What advice would you provide them to ensure success in the classroom?
I think that new teachers sometimes either come in very timid or sometimes come in overly confident. So as you can see both sides, especially depending on like the program they went through or whatever. I think that I would tell new teachers to be open to feedback and to be open to help. Don't be afraid to ask veteran teachers, or not just veterans, but teachers that you notice are doing things that you would maybe want to do, or just even asking, can I go see every teacher that teaches reading if I'm a reading teacher, right? I just want to see the differences. Who would you suggest, for me to go see? So I think sometimes we get teachers can get either like very like, oh no, I don't, protective of their classrooms, but I'm fine. Like I know how to do this. It's not about not knowing, it's about what works.
Right.
And I think, and it also depends on where you've been before. Title I schools are very different than non-Title I schools. Different kids, right? Different communities of different kids. So you have to know what you're getting into.
Okay. Let's see. So you mentioned two things, and I think they're both important for teachers to do, is to be open to feedback. Don't get your feelings hurt, right? It's all about the work, and the worst thing would be is that no one gives you feedback and you don't know whether you're doing it right or wrong. Asking for help, it's not a sign of weakness. It's a sign of strength that you want to do better. What is a piece of advice that you may want to share with them in regards to parent communication, because they're scared of that
they can be. That's for sure. Be open and honest in the sense of, be honest. If you make a mistake, admit it and say you're sorry. A lot of parents just want to feel like they're being heard and that you're understanding of what they're going through. Right now we're dealing with a COVID crisis, a hard freeze crisis in Houston, and I have a lot. I've noticed that there are a lot of people right now who are in need, right? So instead of jumping on them like you're a horrible parent, how dare you not do this, listen to what they're going through, because there's probably a reason, and they're probably just as distraught about it as you are, like in the sense that they're probably just as worried about their child as you are. So I believe in open communication, being transparent with them too when it makes sense. Right?
Yeah. What are some skills that you're bringing with you?
So I am very organized and very fond of my Excel and having things in charts and put together in a nice, easy, readable way. I also am pretty tech savvy I like to learn new apps and new things that are fun for the kids and for myself, make my job a little bit easier sometimes. I'm also, I feel like parents have always and students have always felt comfortable with me. So maybe I feel like that's a skill that I bring, is that I make them feel heard. And I think that I don't ever push them away.
So you have the skill of really developing a good relationship.
A good relationship, yeah, with my parents and my kids. Whenever I want a teacher, so I think that's and I'm a team player. I mean, I will do things late if someone asks me to do something that they really need. I'm if I say no, it's because there's a real reason.
Okay, all right.
But yeah,
good to know. Okay, considering our new norm, what are short-term and long-term effects that you foresee in children?
So some long-term, just because they pop into my head, is definitely the socialization, especially of the younger children. Unfortunately, in my own daughter, I've noticed that she's an only child. So before, when she was stuck at home, not going to school, I could see some regression in certain behaviors because there weren't other kids to play with, and she was a little angrier. And they don't know how to express that. So they're just angry. Like they're like, ugh, I don't want to be here anymore.
Yeah.
So I think that's a long term, definitely the socialization. I also can definitely see the academic gaps. We know the academic gaps already existed, and now here we are a year later. And even though we're teaching our hearts out, I feel like teachers are teaching harder than they ever have. You can't control what's happening on the other side of that screen. And unfortunately, there's a lot of stress, right, going on in their homes. I think kids are having to grow up a little too fast.
Yes,
Some of these kiddos, they're seeing things, death and things that they shouldn't have to be dealing with yet.
So do you think that an effect from that may be, I don't know if trauma is too harsh of a word, but somewhat,
I think they are having some trauma. I've read reports where pediatricians are like, this is a very traumatic thing for their growth and development. Like it's just not just about them talking. It's about learning how to interact and learning the manners and learning
taking turns. And
I've actually spoken to a colleague recently who said, we were both like, some of the things they're saying to us on camera, they would never say to us in person. And it's not necessarily that it's outright rude, but it's things like, I'm here. Yeah. They would never do that in the classroom.
I agree.
But it's that barrier of a screen. And they just, almost like a troll would on the internet, type behind their little screen. No one knows who they are, but we know who they are. So
then maybe like etiquette,
things like that. That's more of a short term, because that can be fixed, pretty relatively quick. We remind them, just because we're on a screen doesn't mean, we can talk to each other like that. But I miss that connection. I think everyone does. And the kids do, parents, everybody.
The kids probably miss it and don't really understand that feeling of missing it. They're like, it's something in them and they don't.
Yeah, they don't really understand. So, I mean, those are, let me see. So long term, I'm sorry. So short term, I know there's some short term, right? Food insecurity, housing insecurities, things like that, or have jobs, their parents are losing jobs. And I know I'm focusing a lot on the home, but the academics are there too. I think teachers are feeling burnt out, but that's more the teacher side than the kids side. But it affects the kids eventually.
Absolutely.
So,
absolutely.
Yeah, that's
okay. Yeah, they're not used to seeing their teachers
exhausted.
They're not used to the teachers like just straight into the work. When you go straight into the work without having that silliness, it's showing that you have a lot on your plate to get into these kids. We don't have time to play, but there should always be that. And they're not used to seeing their teachers just going full force that way. Okay. Do you have any questions for me?
So I think one of my questions would be like, what is some of the responsibilities that you expect out of an assistant principal?
Okay. So as an assistant principal, you have principal certification, which means anything that the principal can do or sign off on, the assistant principal can do. So the expectation, and it won't be up front at the very beginning, but if I were not to be in the campus, that the expectation is that you would continue that role in my absence on my behalf, the way I would do it. It's everyone has their own personality. I'm not saying you have to turn into your principal, but during the time that you are on your principal's behalf, then you would handle business the way your principal would choose to do. I do also expect for them to be my confidant. So if that door is closed and we're having a conversation, this is where it stays, and that I don't ever have to feel like I can't trust saying that.
Yes.
That we know, the expectation is that we know how far to go with our relationships with our colleagues. Our B.Jakl Elementaries are very family oriented amongst the faculty. There's friendships and relationships within the campus, which is awesome. But we have to know that when it's the business, it's the business. Of course, attend any training to be the backup for many of the roles that I play, payroll, budgeting, things of that nature, that if I'm not available, that work still has to be done. And so the proper training has to be obtained before you have clearance to use those resources. There's a lot of training at the beginning of that first year. So you do have to understand that you have to balance both what you're learning here on campus real time and what the trainings that you have to attend.
Okay.
You will get a mentor. The district assigns all new assistant
Great.
principals a mentor, and they come and they visit with the principal, they visit with you. So there's a lot of support with someone that's not directly here so that you can have like an outlet, sort of,
Okay,
you know,
yeah.
what's going on. It will be very stressful.
Mhm.
And the expectation is that you got to make it look really easy.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's challenging because you're just as burnt out as others. You know, there's a saying it goes, when the principal sneezes, the staff catches a cold. So if I'm upset, you're gonna feel it out there.
Yeah.
Just like if the teacher is stressed, the kids are feeling it. And so we have to make it look easy. So sometimes they may say, she's not even doing anything. She's just the assistant principal. She's just running around, you know, checking on classes. And that's okay that they think that because you're making it look
Making it look
easy.
easy.
But it isn't. It's knowing that how to, you know, have an opportunity to take care of your needs. You know,
Yeah.
you do. And we tend to want to be superwoman and take care of that. You just can't do it, and especially now, you just can't. You have to have an outlet.
Yeah.
So please make sure that that is something that you know.
Okay.
And let's see, we talked about the trust, and that I never want to worry or even give it a second thought that there's any. I'm trying not to use the word, but that you have my back
Yeah.
no matter what.
Yeah.
That if I make a mistake and they may ask you, that sometimes you have to say, well, it's my fault. That sometimes you take the blame. I'll take the blame for others. We have each other's back in that regard because in the end, we have to give our best service to the teachers that are doing the work.
Yeah.
And if they're upset about something, our role is to try to eliminate that. What is it that you're upset about? Oh, the water's coming down. So one teacher had an issue with their shelves, and we're like, you know, okay, not a problem. Right away, we took those shelves out because of the water and the damage and the leaking and put some fresh ones in there. And that's what she wanted. It wasn't anything about it. That's what she wanted that was going to make her feel better. So,
Yeah.
you know, we found a way of making sure that we take care of that
Yeah.
as much as possible. There was one other thing I was going to say. Not, I guess it sounds negative, but not to, but I guess support the cause all the time. So if
Yeah.
someone says, "Oh, Ms. Goody was just giving us so much work. I don't understand these plans." So when we start to say, "Yeah, I know, but you know, just do it." This is the reason why she's asking.
Yeah.
You know, it's going to make you a better teacher. So supporting everything that we have because they're going to test you.
Yeah.
They test every new assistant principal. I was tested at my first school. I was tested here. And you're usually tested by one of the most highly respected teachers on the campuses. And in both times, I was tested by a very outspoken member of the teaching team. They want to see if you know your stuff. Expect it, plan for it. You know, just know it's going to happen.
Yeah.
And once that person has tested you, in whether you know how to handle a parent conference, whether you know how to handle your data, whether you know how to handle a discipline issue. They're going to test you. Once they see how well you did and how much you had their back, it's gonna go out there. And that's what you want. You want already to have that good reputation that I got your back. You know, I got your back but also knowing that you're loyal to the principal.
Yes.
I think with my team, I think the teachers know that. They know you can trust any one of them to support you, but they know. In the end, they know they report to me.
Yeah.
One of my team members will say, okay, I'm sorry that you feel about that way about Ms. Beverly. I'm going to let her know. So I don't want you to be surprised. I'm going to tell her.
Yeah.
So it's just that don't think you can say something about the principal to someone on my team and not think it's going to come back. We have to be that. And the same thing I've done with my team. Someone says something bad about that, I want them to know. And you know, I had your back, but I want you to know this is going on. How can we work to make sure that that misconception or that wrongdoing isn't, you know, what it should be?
Yeah.
But so you will be tested. They're probably going to test your loyalty to me by either talking about me or saying something that's totally against what I may think is very important for our campus. So all of those are tests.
Okay.
Just be aware of it, especially at the beginning. After that, they're going to know how you work, and they're going to see you fair on both sides, but just want to make sure that you're prepared for the test.
Okay. Also, how many assistant principals have been under your principalship?
Good question. Let's see. So at the very beginning, it was Miss Bazan. Miss Bazan was with me for 4 years, and then she became the principal at Janowski Elementary. After that, I had teacher specialists. I didn't have an assistant principal. I had specialists that were running on the leadership team.
Oh, okay.
There are some years when the district looks at your numbers and they say you don't qualify, or they may say, no, we would rather have you. So sometimes the district kind of controls that a little bit. They look at your funding and number of kids.
Okay.
But I did have at one point Mr. Santos, who was a teacher here, became one of the specialists. And I mentored him. He ended up becoming a principal in Aldine.
Okay.
So I'm very proud of that they came under me, and whenever they say, I want you to mentor me because I'm looking now, I got to give it to them the way it really is, the task that really will challenge you so you can know, because I went from that desk as AP for 4 years to this one, and it was a whole different world.
Yeah.
And Miss Ileana Perez was a teaching assistant whenever I started here. She became a teacher. I moved her into a leadership role,
Oh, wow.
and then she now is at Rockledge Elementary as a principal. Alicia Puente was an interventionist here. She wasn't my assistant principal, but she was part of my leadership team. She moved on as AP, different positions, and now she's a principal at Durkee. Teresa, so that's official ones, I guess, would be Ms. Bazan. Official. Ms. Bazan, Ms. Garza, and then Ms. Garcia that were official APs. The others have been leadership members under a teacher specialist, which kind of makes it hard for me, because there are certain things that only a person with a principal certification can sign off on. Like, for example, suspensions. If you're going to take a day of the child's life out of the classroom, it has to be a certified principal who signs off on that. So that kind of gave me some things that I had to do on my own, and I couldn't delegate certain things to them. So it was a little challenging then.
Okay. Yeah. All right. And then is there anything or the vision or I read your vision and mission statement for the school, so I kind of have an idea of what we're about Barracks, about moving kids towards college, or at least higher education, moving them towards that excellence. So is there any kind of procedure implementation, like thing that's happening right now, that you would like to see refined, or that you would like new eyes on, that you feel needs to be changed, but you guys just haven't come up with a way to change it, I guess?
I think that would be a really good topic for SDMC. I trust every year. I trust my SDMC. I trust with what they may ask me or challenge me with, because that's how I know. That's how I kind of keep my hand on the pulse of the school.
Yeah.
I may come up with these great ideas. I gotta just read the room and know if that's something that we need to kind of look at again. But one important thing besides the academic and besides the going to college that's really, really important to me, and the reason it's important to me is I realize that that's how I grew. I had the best experiences as a child in schools, and it was because of the experiences. The family nights, the sleepovers, the projects, the parades, the plays, the field lessons. All of those things are things children will remember more than the lessons. And so now it's even harder to have those experiences, and somehow we have to build them into where we are. So Career Day became a virtual event. Of course, it was frozen over, but it was great though. We were able to get people from across the state and other places to kind of
upside,
join.
but
but it's not the same. And having those experiences, I think, will prepare them better for life than just sitting and getting.
I agree. Okay. I think that's all for now. If I have anything else, I'll follow up.
Okay. So the next phase of our interview would be twofold. It'll be a writing task. So I'm going to send these for homework if you can work on these writing tasks. One of them says to write an email message to the teachers that you will be appraising in the school, so that you can meet with them and review the expectations of TADS with you.
Okay, great.
The second is a short letter to the parents introducing yourself and your new role in our school. Okay, so those are the two writing tasks. And then you will be asked back to meet with our committee.
All right, thank you so much, Ms.
All right, thank you for joining me.